Hello, podcast friends. It's another edition of Foodie Friday here on the Alive and Social Network with yours truly, BT Brian Turner, and my co-host and lovely daughter,
Lydia Turner. That's me.
That's her. She's just jamming right in there. It's Lydia Turner right there.
You
That's
always
her.
introduce me. I don't
That's
even
right.
get to say my name.
Well, you do get to put in the little tagline that you've developed here some shows ago. It's Foodie Friday on the Alive and Social Network.
Coming in hot, always fresh, never stale.
Never stale.
No,
Look at this trio of gentlemen that we have here in the
know.
Alive and Social Network.
First trio we've had in a while.
It has been a while since we've had three guests.
I guess it's a quintet now, though.
JP Samuelson is here. Hello there, JP. Chef, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. You look a little nervous, JP. You look a little on edge right now. We were joking around. It was jovial. There was a lot of smiling before the microphones were turned on, and now I've got a stare coming
It's
at me.
because of your secret.
Do I need to
it's the
freeform this?
secret. Oh, it's the secret.
Yeah,
Well,
we don't
we're
know.
You know what? Are we going to reveal? We'll reveal the secret too, won't we?
Yes,
I
we
mean,
will.
and it's not that
coming
big
up.
a secret. It's
Coming
something
up very soon.
It's something we usually close the show with. But Lydia said as we were secretly meeting in the other room before the podcast, let's open the show with it today.
Yes.
All right. John Mihailov is here, restaurant consultant. John, longtime restaurateur and restaurant guy, foodie guy here in the Twin Cities. Johnny, good to have you here.
And it's great to be here. It really is.
A real pleasure. And also Bill Kozlak is here from Jack's Cafe. Talk about two families, the Mihailov family in the restaurant business and the Kozlak family. Bill, how are you, man?
I'm great. Glad to be here.
Good to have you here as well. Jack's Cafe's got a Kickstarter campaign. They're trying to upgrade some gear. I think that's a very cool initiative. We're going to get into that. Johnny's working on a new project. Well, a new one for you.
Is.
Working on that project. And JP has what we would call a Monday through Friday job in the food business now. Is that how you define it, JP?
Banker hours.
Yeah.
Someone said it was corporate.
Oh, you got the corporate knot the other day.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment at this point. I think it's a compliment, you know?
In the restaurant world, that's definitely an insult.
Okay.
It was meant that way.
Yeah, kind of in the music and the broadcast world, too. You guys went corporate.
Exactly.
But
Sell
now,
out.
on the music side of things, every new band that you get introduced to, you probably saw them or heard their music on a commercial first. It used to be,
Totally.
you know, the song came out, and then, all right, Rolling Stones, start me up. It's the Microsoft program. Okay, you know, that would follow thereafter. But now we get these bands. I'm working doing the lunchtime show at Go 96.3, and the modern rock and the pop alternative rock we're playing there. I swear, a third to half of the bands that we play that I'm playing on my show and we're playing as new ads, new
There's
songs.
an Audi ad that has this song.
Exactly, or a Jeep Renegade ad. The guys from Ex Ambassadors. I mean, and that's how we got introduced to them, was the spot, the commercial, the TV spot, and it's a great song. But, you know, that's how we're playing it on the air now, because that's the way the pathway made it in. So we'll see. We'll see where that corporate word makes its way during the
Be
course
careful.
of this show.
Monday to Friday, guys get laid off first.
Yeah.
Saturday night, Sunday, guys, they last forever.
Well said, Bill. Well said. So the secret is, and it's not really that big a secret
No.
to Foodie Friday listeners here on the podcast, we do a feature called the Foodie Friday 5, usually to end every show. But Lyd suggested, let's do it at the start of the show. It might open up some doors and, you know, give us some pathways that we might not have explored otherwise. And the Foodie Friday 5 is just what you think it is, 5 questions that we ask every guest every week on the program. And we want you to give us no more than a one-sentence answer. So you can expound a bit. Often sometimes if we're running long and it's the last feature on the show, we got like 2 minutes left.
go.
Christ, we got to get the Foodie Friday 5 in. One word only. One word answer.
one-word
No,
answers.
but now we're at the beginning of the show. Everything a little bit laid back. We all got glasses of water. We're just getting started. We're 3 minutes and 58 seconds into the program. We got time. So actually, if you want to go more than a sentence, we'll be fine with that. You think? No, look at I'm
No.
You're
I
already
figured
giving.
it-
I'm changing the rules already. What do you think?
I think that's good. I
All
think
right.
we're good.
All right.
We can do whatever we want.
All right, so the Foodie Friday 5, and we're going to start with JP, we'll go to John, and then we'll go to Bill, and then Lydia will have the second question. Foodie Friday 5. JP, Chef JP Samuelson, now from D'Artagnan Meats. JP, what's the first food you ever made all by yourself? You know, home kitchen, whatever, little kid, 4 or 5, whatever age you were. I don't know what age you were. Tell us, what was the first food you made all by yourself
That you had to cook.
that you had to cook? Yeah.
Scrambled eggs.
Scrambled eggs.
Yep.
Yep, we've heard that answer a lot. Yep, that's a good answer. At home? Yeah.
At home, yeah, with my mom.
And how old were you?
4.
Okay, but mom was just supervising. You were kind of doing the deal all by
Yep,
yourself. She'd
absolutely.
shown you. You'd watched before.
Yeah, I was fascinated with the whipping of the eggs. Like
Yeah.
I just remember how she could do it. She is a great baker.
Yeah.
But just the ribbon. So I was fascinated. Still love scrambled eggs. Too.
Fork or whisk at that
Fork.
time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Always fork.
Yeah, kind of the standard kitchen deal.
Yep.
Johnny Mihailov, first food you ever made all by yourself?
First food I ever made by myself would be a grilled cheese sandwich, probably about 5 years old, at home. The first food I made in a restaurant, I was 8 years old. It was crepes.
Crepes.
Bigot.
At 8?
8 years old, Dad put the milk carton upside down. I stood on the milk carton and made crepes for Sunday brunch.
And where was that at?
That was at Muffaletta.
At
in St. Paul.
Muffaletta. Okay,
Indeed.
gotcha. Yep. The early years for your dad, Pete Mihailov and Phil Roberts there.
1977.
Wow, 8 years old.
And how
All
were
right.
the crepes? Did they turn out?
Or
were they
sold out?
5
So
Maybe you should ask. So, how were the first few?
Yes.
And then,
the first few went into the garbage can. They're called the sacrificial crepes,
Right.
and it still happens to this day.
yeah, I
The
think
first
that
ones.
happens with any
Crepes
crepe,
are fussy.
any crepe cooker.
Crep.
Bill Kozlak, first food you ever made all by yourself, Billy?
Fried bologna,
Okay, fried bologna sandwich.
and I could not eat one today. I ate a lot of it as a kid, and I didn't know about the hood fan, so I stunk up the kitchen.
Oh
Something
my!
good.
So you burnt that bologna a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah. Ketchup and mustard.
Yeah. On the Great Northern Sexcast show, which is also a show on the Alive and Social Network, they've told stories about burnt bolognas before as well. I just wanted to throw that out there. It was an odd story, and one that made me cringe, I'm just going to say. All right, Lid, round 2, second question.
JP, who taught you the most about food?
My mom.
Mom.
Yep.
Yep, so going back to Mom.
Yep.
With the
She was a
scrambled
pastry
eggs.
chef actually at the Lowell Inn.
Cool.
So I'm the youngest of 8. So grew up in Stillwater for most of my life, and then when everybody else was away at school, she could actually have a job and took a job as the pastry chef at the Lowell Inn. So
And Mom was a pastry baker or a baker at home, I'm guessing, before that,
you
really had
got
some
it.
skills.
Yeah, her mom was actually a professional musician and great cook. Like we still have her donut recipe and some of
Awesome.
those
So
things.
Grandma had some of that
yeah,
stuff
she
going
was
on.
she
Yeah.
was supposedly the one.
Was
Yeah.
Mom a strictly
So-
pastry baker, or was she a baker in general with breads and?
She she did it all, but you kind of the best of both worlds. Like some of the things she was really, really well known for and good at were like sweet breads, so stuff, and not veal sweetbreads.
That's right.
But things like tea rings, those kind of things that kind of straddle that little bit savory, almost brunch type,
Okay.
But
And the self-rising
actually-
breads and things
yep,
like that.
absolutely. Yeah, I actually have her bread riser as one of my favorite things. Like it was an antique one, and the old school with the holes in top, and it's
Sure.
tin and has the big. It would sit out on the in the back room on top of the radiator, and you'd come home from school and smell bread rice. I mean, it's probably more than any reason why I wanted, and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Went to college, but once you're there again, worked at Madison and smelled the bread again, and somebody should have warned me. You should have warned me.
Those
Mom.
olfactory memories are strong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of JP's responses there may lead to an answer that's still coming up.
I
All right.
think so. Johnny, who taught you the most about food?
It's kind of tough. I grew up in a restaurant family, obviously, and there were 7 kids, one less than JP. I was not the littlest by any means. I was in the middle. So I did learn from my sisters and my older siblings, but the person who probably taught me the most her name is Anna Tuscalanza. She owns a little vineyard in Sicily, and I had a great fortunate enough to have about 3 weeks with her in a small little class from probably 12 people.
What year was this? How old were you then?
Well, this is as an adult when I was working with Book, actually.
Okay.
So I was more than 15 and less than 50. It was more than 5 years ago, let's say.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
But we actually, I stayed on her at her house, basically. It was kind of a little old castle, fortified and overlooked the entire vineyard.
Wow.
But she had a maestro chef that worked with her, and literally get up in the morning and you cook with these people, spend the entire day with them, and then cook your evening supper, and then sit out by the campfire and drink their wine.
Oh, well, that sounds
Say her name again.
Anna Tuscalanza.
Tuscalanza.
Is that bucolic and romantic and everything all wrapped in one
It's
right
everything
there?
wrapped up
Yeah.
and run.
Yeah. all the icks, bucolic, romantic. I can't think of any more. And I didn't want to make an ick reference. It didn't sound
Let's
right.
stop there.
Yeah, as soon as I
That's
started
very
it, it's like, why did I say that?
Natural point to stop right now. Hey, Bill, who taught you the most about food?
Well, we only had 6 kids.
Oh,
4 older sisters.
Look at that.
8, 7, 6.
Yeah.
Good sequence. Combination, my mother and my mother's mom. So my grandmother on my mother's side. My mom was staying home for years. I mean, we had breakfast every morning like it was Sunday morning before school. What we hated at the time, we used to have, she would entertain all our school teachers. And each kid would have to be assigned one hors d'oeuvre or one meal piece, and so we'd do that together.
No pressure there.
Right, yeah. Looking for the rat poison usually. So my mom a lot because she cooked 3 meals a day. And then my grandmother, like I said, I was 4 older sisters, and then I was the first boy, so my grandfather loved bringing me to the cabin up on Mille Lacs, and Grandma made great meatballs and spaghetti sauce, and was always cooking as well, and more relaxed time with her. So kind of combination of my mom and my grandmother.
Given your family history, some Polish foods in there too, or what?
Yeah, my dad's side of the family, my grandfather died when I was 2, and my grandmother in 1975, so more than 5 years ago. Really got into the Polish foods more the last 10 years.
Okay.
There was some, but I would never eat them when I was a kid. I was scared of them. Now I love them. I was skinny then when I didn't eat them too.
Oh, that's fun.
But my mom's mom was Polish, married to an Irishman, so we had a whole mix of food.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
Party food.
Big
Yes.
cross-section going on there. All right, third question here. JP, what's the most pretentious food you crave?
We say that with love.
Yeah, and we mean that with love. That somebody else might look at, oh, well, JP. say.
Foie gras.
Okay, foie gras. Yep. Tasty. Good answer. Johnny Mihailov.
I'd have to say the foie gras as well, but I do have a case of escargot in my pantry almost all times.
Yeah. And I know you're a caviar fan, too. So,
I love
yeah.
caviar.
Yep, indeed. So you're still going foie gras, escargot, caviar, kind of in that order?
I would do that in that order if
it was
they're
1,
such
2,
different things.
If it were 1, 2, 3. Yeah. How about you, Bill Kozlak? Most pretentious food.
So
Don't say
I'm-
pierogies.
No, I'm a much more picky eater, and I don't
Polish sausages.
I don't do fish or seafood, so really, I'm a simple eater. Carpaccio,
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
and not always beef. I've had some good beet carpaccio.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, and
Yeah,
other
delicious.
stuff,
Yep. So someone might look and, oh, well, what are you having there, Bill? Yep. Okay, very good.
Carpaccio, yeah, of course.
Bill Kozlak is Thurston Howell III. Yes. Okay.
All right, JP, this is a question for you. The smell of this food makes you the hungriest.
And again, we'll see what does he say
Yes.
this time.
Cinnamon.
Oh, wow.
Cinnamon.
Okay. How about cinnamon bread in Mom's bread riser?
Yeah, but almost
but
any
just
of this
cinnamon.
because
Yeah. Okay, got it. Yep, got it.
Johnny,
God, what's the man?
The smell of his food makes you hungry.
That's a tough one, but just meat on the grill. A
Okay.
nice good steak on the grill when it's searing really hot. Just always makes my mouth water.
what about you, Bill?
No brainer, bacon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be there.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, JP. This is
Last question.
last question. The Foodie Friday 5. JP Samuels and Chef JP. What is your guilty pleasure food?
Ice cream.
Okay.
Any specific ice cream? Is it like Sebastian Joe's ice cream, or is it Ben
No,
and Jerry?
any good ice cream.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like to make it too,
I just want to make the distinction here because we have had people that are like from a gas station, egg salad
No.
sandwiches, Bar
Right,
Avenue.
I get that.
Yeah.
But no, good ice cream.
Okay,
you know,
good ice cream.
Yeah.
Mr. Bizarre Foods himself last week on the show alongside Dan Butner. Andrew Zimmern was like gas station pizza, wasn't that
Yep,
his?
yep.
Johnny Mihailov, guilty pleasure food.
It's not gas station pizza. I'll tell you that. That's way, way, way down on the list.
Further down the scale. Okay.
I really don't eat sweets, and I really try to not to eat bad food. But anything with a nice heavy cream sauce,
Okay.
nail it every time.
Nails it right there. And Bill Kozlak, guilty pleasure food.
Not a sweet guy either. I love my salty Doritos and whatnot, but if there's cookie dough in the fridge or freezer, I'm on.
Right on.
The kids hate me. I get to it first.
We were supposed to make 6 dozen. There's enough for a dozen.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Well, the Foodie Friday 5 right there with JP, Johnny, and Bill. Good answers, fellas. Good answers. Now our podcast listeners have a little more insight into the worlds of these guys. Now let's dive in a little bit further on a one-on-one on a one-on-one situation with these fellas. JP, this quote-unquote corporate job, how long has this been going on for you? And this is brand new territory for you, right? This doing something like this. You've been in kitchen since how long? When did it all
30
start
years,
for you?
So 17.
All right, since you were 17 years
first
old.
Professional kitchen.
Yeah, were you a dishwasher? What did you do?
Yeah, first job was dishwashing.
Okay.
Actually,
Yeah.
went to a YMCA camp in northern Minnesota on the Boundary Waters by Ely, Widgiewagon.
Okay.
So that was the first kitchen I worked in. We'd be up there all summer. My brother's actually still on the board, and my nephew's and niece have been counselors.
cool.
And, yeah, it's a great place, amazing place.
Did you say this is for YMCA or for Wayward Boys?
Both. Both.
I'd like to know what Widgiewagon means now.
That's what I was
in
thinking.
the, in the Ojibwe language, perhaps, or
Yep.
Chippewa, I don't know.
Yeah, it's Ojibwe.
Ojibwe, yeah.
Yep.
It means naughty.
Naughty boy, specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, and then worked at Brian's meat market in Stillwater. Actually, I grew up in Stillwater, and so that was the first professional kitchen.
The classic Brian's.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
a great shop.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yep.
Meat markets, they moved out, on when you're coming in kind of by Oak Park Heights.
Yep.
But still on Main Street, since I believe like mid-50s probably. Yeah.
You and my old show partner on the radio, Lee Valsvik, and her
Absolutely.
family out in Stillwater,
Yeah.
many other Stillwater residents and natives, everybody, to a fault.
Yep.
I mean, down the line, to a fault.
Yeah.
Brian's, they all speak highly of Brian's. So that was a gig there for you. Nice.
Yeah, it was incredible. Actually, it's they had at the time the meat market was on the ground floor, then the restaurant was on the second floor, and the bar was on the third floor.
Okay.
And I don't know if you remember, there was actually a fire that in downtown Stillwater, and 2 firemen actually died. And that whole building went up. And
I do remember that news. I don't remember the year, but I remember when that happened.
So they redid it and rebuilt it, and they were there, and I mean they did it all. I remember actually one time coming down, they did a Friday night buffet with ribs and different things like that. So bringing the cart back down after I'd finally quit washing dishes and unloading the ribs and backing up into the old walk-in cooler, and it was totally dark down there. The meat market was closed, and real kind of spooky. And bump into something and don't know what it is. Feels like something's grabbing you. Turn around, there's like 4 deer hanging. There's people. Oh my god!
That's what nightmares are made
It
of.
was absolutely Stephen King.
Hooves out,
Goodfellas.
Absolutely.
Well, I have a question for JP, but it's for everybody here because you 3 come from larger families. What's the food sitch like coming from a family of 8, a family of 7, a family of 6? What was your relationship with food from an early point on?
My
like?
wife says that I'm like the fastest eater in the world, and
That's not surprising.
A combination of obviously
I feel the race coming on.
Exactly. I mean, there's that part of it, and then being in the restaurant business, as you guys know, you just don't have the time. But absolutely, a little bit of frenetic energy. Sometimes my wife is like, "Listen, there's not 7 more siblings here. Relax." So, but it was also, my dad grew up on a farm, and we'd go back to that farm in Iowa, and those are my first food memories. And so, actually, great memories there is a little bit of that, but go to my aunt's house and the whole how much watermelon, like a half a watermelon to yourself, and just in
Just
abundance,
eat it, just enjoy it,
and just making ice cream. Actually,
Yeah.
that's where I first saw it, and I saw my grandma's ice cream maker.
Nice.
And,
so you got a couple of tools that
I do,
come down the line, the
Yep.
historical
So,
line there. Yeah.
I don't know. It was probably one of the reasons these guys will probably say similar things, but one of the reasons we're drawn to it is, it's the one place where people, even when you're so busy and it's fast, but people actually stop and commune together, and it's a special place.
6 people in your family, Bill Kozlek. Are you a fast eater to this day then, or not? Or
Extremely. At lunch, for sure, I slow down a little bit at dinner, but eating dinner at 10 o'clock at night, you slow down.
But late, because a lot, like you said, JP. You fit in the food where you can. When you're working in the kitchen. Remind me again if I missed it when you said it earlier. Where do you fit in the 6
I have
kids?
4 older
You're
sisters.
the youngest.
And a younger brother.
Younger brother.
But my
excuse me.
4 older sisters and I are about 6 years apart.
Okay.
So food was never a problem. My mom made plenty. Getting a hot shower in the morning before school was a problem with 4 older sisters.
Indeed, especially with that age
Yeah.
gap, because there's a lot of primping and curling and
Right.
other stuff going on
But-
in the era that you grew up. Yeah.
Yeah, my biggest memories were the Sunday night dinners because the restaurants were closed on Sundays. And so it was always, whatever in-laws or cousins lived in town. I mean, Sunday night was, and the smallest dinner was, 20 people.
Sure.
Everyone was coming over. And back then we'd have to pick up 2 different grandmas because they didn't drive.
Yeah.
So when you got to be 16, it was really cool the first year to drive.
Okay, Grandma. I got Grandma.
Yeah, I'll go get
Not a big
Grandma.
deal.
Yeah.
Just for that first year. After that, it's
Yeah,
like, I have to go get grandma again.
I got plans after dinner.
Is there a dish from one of these Sunday night family dinners that really like sticks out for you that you dream about? And
My grandmother's spaghetti meatballs for sure. And roasted chicken just for whatever reason sticks out, and then pot roast, which back then I wouldn't eat. I had to, so I did. Today I absolutely love it. I didn't know what I was missing out on.
Yeah.
And there's a salmon loaf story in there somewhere, but I don't dream of that one. We were having a dinner, and my dad said, "You're going to eat it?" I said, "I'm not." He said, "You're gonna?" I said, "I'm not." He said, "You're gonna?" I said, "If I do, I'll throw up." He said, "No, you won't." I did, and I did.
just out of spite, or
It was salmon loaf.
no, that was an easy throw up.
Bill Kozlak Jr. does not want to take orders from Senior. No.
Not on salmon loaf.
Not on that one. And it was Grandpa, Dad, and others involved in the family business too. Then, so this was really a food thing in that regard, also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My dad's 2 brothers at one point all ran the restaurant together with their father, and then they split up and all started different restaurants. And similar to his family, there was a bunch at one point, and there's one today.
Yeah. So you had cousins then, and uncles, and all that kind of stuff happening.
Each of my uncles had 6 kids as well.
Okay.
So there was at one point.
Was that like a quota system?
Yeah. Father Dukowski told them 6.
Better catch up here.
Yeah. So and everyone was involved back then in the business on the cousin side. So my uncle Jack started Kozlak's Royal Oak, and there was Jack's Golden Valley, and then my uncle, way before our time, had Mr. Joe's in St. Paul, the Motor Lodge.
Okay.
And actually, he was way ahead of the time. He was flying in fresh fish, back in the 50s, 60s.
Wow.
And
From the
he
coast,
died young.
the
though.
coasts, that sort of thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing it in on Northwest Orient Airlines.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah.
Cigarette and martini in hand.
Yeah.
Remember those
And
commercials?
that was the pilot.
Still is.
But yeah, before the Coastal Seafoods and the Fish Guys and all the other ones that are out there, sure, Johnny. Middle of those 7, then. So what was the family food situation like for you? Were you more of a medium speed eater then?
I always tell my mom that there used to be 8 kids, but one didn't make it.
Did one get eaten?
But actually, my memories as kids, my dad actually worked for Pillsbury for a number of years before he got in the restaurant business.
Okay.
So we had Hungry Jack, everything.
Oh, sure.
Biscuits for every meal. Cookie dough, we always had rolls of cookie dough, but we do a lot of test products. So like the toaster strudels we had 10 years before they even came out.
Yeah.
But we had the freezer downstairs is full of Hungry Jack.
And other treats like that, yeah.
Exactly.
That must have been kind of cool. You're in grade school, and what would you have for breakfast? And you get to step up and say, "Well, let me tell you about it," or maybe I can't tell you
brand
about
new
it.
thing.
I don't know. Yeah.
You might hear about it, you might not, because a lot of stuff never ever made it to market.
Sure.
I wish I could tell you, but it was so good.
I got to jump in on the Pillsbury and product testing. My family, my mom, everyone cooked from scratch back then, right? And my sister was at a sleepover one time, and they had mac and cheese for lunch the next day. And she came home, and then later the mom was telling my mother a story that your daughter Katie told us. We made mac and cheese for lunch. She said, "That is so good. You've got to give that recipe to my mom." It's Kraft macaroni and cheese.
Of course.
I loved it.
You really got to get the cheese powder just right.
Try that stuff out. Well, we heard about JP's nascent years. Johnny, what was your first job? I mean, 8 years old making the crepes, but where did it go after that for you?
And then also, obviously, I went into the restaurant business at age 12 and started washing dishes. And
Okay.
I spent 8 years in the back of the house. Decided that I didn't want to smell like grease anymore, so I moved to the front of the house.
So from 12 to 20 years old, so like through high school and all that? Yeah.
Yep, through high school.
Okay.
I moved to the front of the house when I was 21.
And was this at Muffaletta then? Or?
It was actually Muffled on the Lake, which
Okay.
became Blue Point,
Yeah.
which was another of the family restaurants that they ended up selling. But then moved into Filio and moved to the front of the house. Spent 1 year in the back of the house at Filio, the old Filio,
Sure.
and then moved to the front of the house back during the heyday.
Yeah. Oh, that was the heyday too. Then,
early 90s.
Early 90s, right
Yep.
then. Yeah. It's fun to know that one of your dad and Phil's former employees, Michael Larson, and his chef. They're taking over that space and transforming it now.
Yeah, it's a crazy circle.
Yeah, that is fun. How about you? Bill? What was that first gig?
Well, I caddied when I was too young to work in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And then actually my first experience was North Memorial Hospital dietary aid. I worked in the kitchen there, pots and pans.
So where'd you grow up? Robbinsdale area or where?
Yeah, Golden Valley.
Golden
just
Valley,
on the
okay.
border,
Yeah.
And then from there, my first job at Jack's was, I think one summer my dad got sick of me sitting around for 3 days in a row, so he brought me down, had me paint the fence at the parking lot, and it took about 4 days.
The Northeast Jack's,
Yes,
not
yeah.
your uncle's Jack's
Yeah.
in Golden Valley.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then I was I was a busboy. I never washed dishes at Jack's till now that I'm owner. I do. But I got just by they needed a busboy more than they needed a dishwasher at the time. So I was a busboy for a couple of years, and then as through college, did different things and moved on in.
Yeah, fun. What's the most unusual memory you have from those busboy years?
Well, the waitresses in the late 70s and 80s, there was my ears were ringing. There was a lot of things I learned in a hurry. It was crazy back then. I mean, people ate out late then. On Gopher football Saturdays, I mean, it'd be midnight and people were still ordering dinner.
Yeah.
And we were waiting for them to leave to set up for the Sunday brunch. I mean, I'd get, 16 years old. We were getting home at 2, 3 in the morning, coming back at 8 o'clock for brunch. That was a tough time.
Yeah.
Sounds horrible.
No kidding.
Well, I have a question for you, Bill. Great-grandfather Stanley, who first built up the business, furniture, hardware, and funeral services.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's that all about? What kind of?
Well, it was before my time, but the building
But I
was
know there's a
built.
story.
Yeah, built in 1910. It was this huge building, and the original Jack's is what is today's bar, and the rest of the 20,000 square foot building, there was all these different things. So my grandfather was actually a state legislator, attorney, and then his dad died young, so they had the funeral business. So he took it over in that current space. And the funny story is back then, most funeral reveals were in the people's homes. They would go to people's homes. And he was 20-some years old and grew a mustache so he would look more mature to handle the funeral part of the business when he would go deal with it. But so anyhow, yeah, in part of what the building is today was part of the funeral services, and then it moved next door to where it stands today, which is no longer in our family, but it's there.
Is there a Kozlak cousin that continues on with the mortuary sciences at all? Or
There was. If there is now, it's a distant cousin that I don't know. My dad's cousin, Uncle Pete, and then Petey Jr., and then they sold it to the current owner.
I'm just sorry. This is on a kick right now. I'm on a 6 Feet Under binge watch, so I'm like all into the funeral services. And
Well, and you bring up because I've seen a Kozlak, funeral home sign
It's
somewhere.
still there.
Yeah,
Right
yeah.
next door.
Oh, and maybe that's the one.
And I was just on
Well, there you go.
I've seen it.
Oh,
Somewhere.
the old
It's
marketing
here.
used to be, we'll feed you and take care of you next door.
no, that's funny. It's making me. That's exactly what it is. Being at either at your
Food
shop,
so good it will kill you.
yeah, or just driving by. That's exactly what it is right there. Johnny, we want to dig into kind of what's going on in your world right now as a restaurant consultant guy. But preface that by giving us a little quick lineage. I mean, Muffaletta on the Lake, and then with Filio, you did a stretch at Buca for a while.
Yep.
Just give us a little quick outline of some of the stuff that brings you up to where you are right now.
Outline.
And you had your own shop too,
Yep,
of course.
yep, exactly. So obviously I worked through college to get out of the restaurant business, and was convinced that I
Worked so well.
did not want any piece of this at all. Once it's in your blood, it's in your blood. I found.
Yeah.
So I actually got my degree in law enforcement from the
Okay.
University of Minnesota, and quickly did not go into law enforcement. Got an offer from a friend of mine who was the GM of the Buca downtown, the first one, and he said, "Hey, you got to come in and check this place out and try it out." And obviously, that was a family thing. I didn't want to work for my dad, and I didn't want to work in the restaurant business, so I said, "Sure, I'll try it out." 9 months later, I was a general manager of the St. Paul one. A year later, I became a divisional vice president, opened up the Southeast, so basically from D.C. down to Miami. Spent 6 to 8 years there total. And
that was during that big expansion time.
yeah,
then, too,
I started when there were 2 and left when there were 104.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I've opened up 59 restaurants so far.
Oh my god.
Well, that's got to bring you to a lot of experience now when it comes to helping out. You guys work together as Randy Stanley opened up Six Smith in Wayzata, and JP, you were chef in there, and you were consulting and working there too. So, but that's sort of that vibe and that opening the things up and being aware of what the needs are and how to form these.
It's
really
anticipating
and
and saying it's creating a team. You can take 5 great managers, but if they can't work together, they can't have the division of labor. They're not going to be a successful team. So it's really being able to hire people, but also give them the piece that they need to be part of that team. So it's kind of making people work together.
Is that just kind of second nature now to you?
Actually, the rest of business, nothing can be second nature because the second that you think you know it all, you find out you don't. And I learn every day how much I don't know and how much there is yet to learn. So it's being a teacher, but it's also being a student as well. I mean, you always have to be a student in the restaurant business to stay on the edge.
New techniques or something that just you didn't know,
it's
or
new
you just
food,
didn't pay
it's new
attention
techniques,
to,
there's new technology has changed quite a bit. We used to do inventory on a piece of paper and pen, and now there's Excel spreadsheets, and now there's actually programs that do most of it for you, where you're walking around with
walking around on your phone,
with your iPad or whatever.
iPad.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
Amazing.
Keep an eye on, keep track of everything that way for sure. With the opening of a restaurant and the ownership of a restaurant, what's that experience like? You guys have both done this, and you had some successes, and then you had to shutter your shops. I mean, JP, speak about your bistro with JP's. To give us a little insight into that. It's got to be an exciting thing. I mean, getting your own deal off the ground. Your name is up there, or in your case, Johnny, with Tiburon downtown. On Harmon Place there, but that was your name and it was your project. That's just got to be.
I think it's probably what
unique and fun. Yeah.
Every chef kind of dreams of.
Sure.
When they do it. And I mean, for me, it was. One of the reasons I love the business was you could also envision. It's something you could envision yourself doing and being your own boss. And seeing my grandpa actually be his own boss as a farmer kind of was like. It was like it just. That part of it always appealed to me. So, yeah, it was incredible. It was great. It's also, as these guys can attest, it's way more than being a chef, you know? And there's so much that's out of your control. I mean, we were open for 5.5 years and had road construction. That
was kind of the thing for you, I remember.
That and
really,
the recession. Obviously it was a perfect storm. And, we had, just endless, 3 summers, supposed to be a full 1 summer, and just, you just couldn't get behind that, out from under the 8 ball. And, if you can't pay the taxes, you can't be, you got to shut it down. I mean, it just gets to that point. And, tough decision. But, I learned so much, and it's one of the reasons, John and I actually worked together before we did worked on Six Smith. We had both worked for Cascade and helped relaunch, John was doing other stuff, but helped relaunch the Filio and the space in West End.
Gotcha.
And it led to other things. And one of the reasons, talking with Cam, who owns Cascade,
Cam
he was
Talaby,
like, well, one of the reasons I'd hire a guy like you is because you have gone through that. It's much different when you've signed both sides of the check. And you have to pay you get like we were talking about earlier, just the price of everything going up, and that includes labor and all those things. And so there's so much more that goes into it. But I also really like that. I thought it was, that putting that puzzle together. But it also takes you away from, doing what you love to do. So like John said, getting the right team. I mean, like Michael Jordan didn't win that championship until he had the right coach. You know what I mean? And they put the right pieces of the puzzle. You can be the greatest player, but when it's a team game, and that whole part of it. And John says it's so fascinating. I mean, I would, my wife says, would you do it again? And she's like, with your next wife. But that's not true. But it's kind of what led to, what I'm doing now, and kind of, you've done it for yourself. So there aren't a lot of situations that really I find like, boy, I'd really want to do that. And as you get older, and so, working for a company and supplying, the kind of, products that I wanted to work with, that was really appealing. It's kind of what led to this, kind of where we're at now.
Like you said, and a lot of things don't surprise you because you've been surprised by a lot of those things. So when a chef tells you when it comes to this or that, and you're selling high-quality meats through D'Artagnan, as am I saying?
Yep, absolutely.
They're out of New York City, have a big shop in Chicago, and really are expanding quite a bit.
Yep, and just thought the Minneapolis market was really ripe for that kind of company.
Yeah. And so, you can anticipate a lot of things that may happen, or if there's a problem, problem. You probably have had that problem come down the pike at you once before, twice
Absolutely,
before, a lot of times
and
before.
the logistics of it. One
Yeah.
thing I kind of find fascinating is, you as a chef, you just call up, where's my stuff?
Yeah.
Why isn't it there? And when you're on the backside of it, and you guys can attest, it's just there's a lot that goes into it to get it, and dealing with the small, farms and cooperatives and trying to get them to do it right way, then getting it to us, and then getting it to the chef, and
Yeah.
all the things that go with it. So you're right, just being able to anticipate some of that and know where chefs are at, in their head, and
Yeah.
what kind of finesse they need, and if they do or don't. And, so it's a good mix, of staying in the game and, seeing the restaurants and being in there and talking to these guys, and also having a little bit of a different lifestyle.
Sure. Well, and how old's your kid now?
17.
Yeah, so you got a little more time there before
Yep.
that kid's off, and
Absolutely.
and your wife, who would I would hope wouldn't want to have a second wife occur, so you can do that project again. You get more time with her now, and all that kind
Absolutely.
of stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, Johnny, is this world with the restaurant consulting, and now you're working with the folks at Seven in
Yep.
downtown Minneapolis, kind of echoing what we were talking with JP about, more of that family time, a little bit more of a regular schedule than from the ownership perspective, like with Tiburon. I would think most certainly from that perspective.
Yeah, and it's kind of realizing that you work for your family, not work to work. And restaurants can be all-consuming. You can't spend a day getting caught up on your work and then take the next day off, because the next day you got to serve more food.
Yeah.
So you can never be caught up. I get asked all the time, "Hey, you ready to open up another restaurant?" And I kind of surmise it to, it's like going out and binge drinking, and then the next day you wake up with a hangover, and you go, "God, I'm never going to do that again." And then the next weekend comes, and you're going, "Yeah, now it's going to
Gonna
happen."
do that
Party
again.
time again.
So the current answer is next time it'll be different.
Next time.
Drink more water.
Yeah.
Well, there's so much out of your control, as you were saying. When I had Cozy's, probably a similar time frame. We were 2005 to 2010, and
Yeah.
same thing: construction, hotel being built, Target being torn down, rebuilt, roads, and then it was going to be great when the hotel was done, and it was 2009. The economy was terrible.
Yeah.
So you can do the greatest job, have the greatest staff. Sometimes things are just out of your control.
Yep,
And
yep.
it makes it tough. That's where you need consultants
Yeah.
to talk
Well,
you
That's
through
right.
it.
Well, it's funny. I want to share this with our podcast listeners. As JP was riffing on that, and as Johnny was riffing on that, Bill, who just spoke now, though, he was nodding his head. he was
There's just-
constantly nodding his head.
Well,
So every
it's-
one of those things was said.
It's like John said, just when you think you know everything, something changes. In our
Yeah.
case, when we had Cozy's, we probably made it too nice. And people would walk in the mall and they'd look in and just assume you were really expensive.
Yeah.
And if they didn't stop and look to realize you might have been $2 cheaper than the people down the hall, but
Sure.
their perception was. And that was the first kind of change in times where people were wearing jeans in the restaurants a little more and going more casual.
Yep.
And so that was a good learning experience.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the way. Obviously, anything the way you present it has bearing on what's going on. But yeah, that was a lesson for you right there. Lyd, you look like you're anticipating.
No, well, I just wanted to get into Bill's Kickstarter.
Good, yeah, 'cause I wanted to go there too, yeah.
We were all talking about this, and
Exactly.
as far as like the looks of things and being transparent about things too. But on the website for the fundraising, I like that you have it listed out, all of the new equipment that you're going to get, as far as like costs that you weren't expecting years ago, but maybe somewhere down the
Right.
line. Like now you're here at this moment where now we got to pump it up. We got to
Yeah.
make this a little bit more sustainable.
Well, and I think it's cool too because you see these Kickstarters happen for a lot of new initiatives.
Right.
But you have a legendary restaurant. But
Yeah.
any shop can use help from their patrons from time to time, and you just reach out and ask, and that's the best you can. That's the starting point. The best you can do.
Right. So the building's 100 years old,
Yeah.
a little more, and the equipment's not 100 years old, but you
It just feels like it.
you buy a new steamer about every 3 years.
Would you like some more of that cast iron potatoes?
Yeah. So we just said, let's look at the next 20 years, try to do this all at once. We have some other projects on the building we're going to do, and so we're going to do it whether the Kickstarter gets funded or not. But my managers, two of them, talked to me about it. I said, isn't that kind of for startups, as you just mentioned?
Yeah.
And they were outside the box. They said, why does it have to be? So we said, let's give it a try. We have a lot of Jack's customers that we always say everybody has a Jack story, and they love to share them. When I was walking out the door today, this little old lady stopped to tell me their whole story. And her husband used to be on the city council at Columbia Heights with my uncle, and so we said, let's give it a try, and let them feel part of the community, the Jack's community, and the ownership. So we said, let's hire somebody to help us. Should have called Johnny. So we put something
There's always
together,
another project there,
and
Bill.
we wanted to be very straightforward about here is the exact equipment, and here is the energy savings and different things like that. So we're giving it a go. It's been fun. We've had some negative feedback, and we've had a lot of positive feedback.
That energy thing, I remember, and JP, you were working with Kim Bartman for a bit there, and you still have a relationship there, I know. But especially at, there were some motivations that looked like you were going to be a little more solid in at Red Stag for a bit there, as I recall. When she built that place, with the LEED certification and all those energy savings, I want all you guys to speak to that whole energy thing. And I'm bringing you up, JP. I'll have you finish up, but I want Bill to talk about it first because you. Just brought up the
Sure.
energy cost of that old gear and stuff. I mean, what are the differences that you're looking to save in terms of that monthly nut and then that downstream nut?
It's crazy, especially with some of the ovens on the banquet side. Right now, a cook comes in the morning, they pop the hood fans on, turn the oven on, and whether you're using it or not, it's on all day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And some of these new pieces of equipment, they're all programmable. I mean, a 5-year-old could see chicken or steak at medium rare and push the right buttons, and it would cook it for you.
And they heat up really quickly, I'm guessing, too, or at least faster than the older ones.
And so in the kitchen, it's huge. And then in our case, all the lighting and everything else, it's amazing what you can do. And I'll remember back in 2005 when we were working on Cozies, an architect asked me about being LEED certified, and it was pretty foreign to me, and I knew it was going to be a lot more expensive. And I said, he's crazy. I just want to cook steaks and sell this stuff. And in hindsight, we probably should have done it because it was about that time the first few got a lot of really good press for it. But anyhow, it is going to make the employees a little more intelligent with some of this new equipment. It's going to save a lot of money in the energy side. And a lot of it is just by not realizing that you don't need everything on all the time.
Yeah. Johnny, would you echo that?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do, part of my consulting business is I do show people that every single penny can be saved.
Yeah.
And electricity is one that that's overlooked quite a bit. Just by changing light bulbs, you can save thousands of dollars a year. And it's just the tiny little things like that. And for a restaurant, $1,000 could make or break you.
Right? Yeah. On any given month, on any given year.
Absolutely.
Exactly. But you go into the water heater thing, you go into bathroom, the blade, the Dyson blade type of things there. The vent hoods, like we were talking about there, where they just kind of are programmable for what you're cooking, or some of them. JP, didn't Kim install something there where it kind of smelled the food too? Or am I imagining that? I know there was something that was really.
It sounds like a Jetsons thing.
Rosie comes out of the back. I mean,
That was the 70s.
I know there was something. We got to get this pot smell out of the kitchen. The boss is coming in any minute. Maybe I'm overstepping it, but I thought there was some intelligent sort of thing about it that it would it increase or decrease depending on the heat.
I think
Certainly by the
you're
heat,
tting
maybe.
about the hood.
Yeah,
actually.
that's what I'm getting at.
So
The hood.
it's a heat temperature.
It was a
That's
heat
what-
thing, not so much a
yeah,
smell thing.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And they
that
shut
was my-
down quicker, like after they're done, and they're still working, out some of the bugs in those. You really got to keep them clean, but
Sure.
huge energy savings, like John was saying. Electricity is such a huge one. You turn on those hoods, and they're on all day.
They're just on. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the old ones, you can't. You couldn't shut them on and off and expect the cooks to come do it. But now, if people aren't there after lunch, in between dinner, they're only doing a little bit, doesn't need it, not smoking, it'll sense it, shut it down,
Yeah.
or go to a lower setting. So the motor. So huge. And Kim's was the first LEED certified.
Yeah.
Red Stag was in Minnesota, and only like the 17th restaurant in the United States.
Right, yeah.
At that time, and it is like. Bill was saying it's kind of the wave of the future, and just because every cent costs and the sustainability thing,
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you can do it from the start, it's a lot easier than retrofitting.
oh, absolutely. 100-year-old
Absolutely.
building.
Yeah. And then that's what she was able to do with Red Stag.
exactly, because
right,
it gutted it.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah.
So if you were to do another one, You would do it differently. Would you do that? Would you? I mean,
Are you looking at me or JP?
well, we'll get to his second wife in a second.
Yeah.
I mean, would that be?
absolutely.
Would that be sort of the starting point?
Yep,
It's like
it'd have to be.
top to bottom, energy and water efficiency.
Successful restaurants are designed with the kitchen first, and then the rest of it afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's part of the deal nowadays. Is where you really have to look at what kind of equipment you're going to need, how it's going to be operated, and how much it's going to cost, not just to run it, but to replace it, and the sustainability of your carbon footprint. I mean, you have to look at the whole piece, and it's a no-brainer. You have to do it.
And I think, JP, maybe you can answer to this, and Johnny too, and Bill, are patrons, like they're looking at the locally sourced thing, are they looking at sort of that carbon footprint thing as maybe being something that has an advantage? JP, you answer first.
Yeah, I would say it's gaining momentum.
Okay.
You know,
People pay attention to it.
We're not like California, but I'd say we're a lot better than the East Coast.
Yeah,
You
okay.
know, and so it is becoming more and more important to everybody.
Bill, do you think that might be helping to fuel? And let's try to pump up a little interest here in your Kickstarter. I mean, because I think that's a big selling point in this, in kind of this world that we're inhabiting, and people's consciousness about the Earth, at least for some people. You know,
Right. It's really the number one reason why we said let's do the Kickstarter, because there is some heartstrings being pulled on people to take a building as old as ours and say, okay, you know what, let's be more energy efficient, selfishly, because we could save a few dollars, obviously, but it really is the right thing to do.
Yep.
And I do think people they do care. Not 100% of your customers, but they're all doing it at their homes right now too, as much as they can. So they're seeing it.
Where can people learn more about this or help you fund this?
They could go right to the Kickstarter. They can just Google Kickstarter, and then you can go right, search JAX, JAX, and it'll pop right up. Or
Perfect.
they could go to our website, and there's a link to it.
Yeah, so many great memories at your shop. Yeah. For all of us in this room, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And patrons that are listening to the podcast right now.
Anyone ever fall in the trout stream? Been a lot of them.
I've been. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been sometimes of a condition where that could have happened at the legendary Jack's Cafe, but I never did.
As far as things coming up next for you, JP, I read an article by Mecca Boss, who we have had on the show before, talking about Red Stag Supper Club and about the interpretation of what it means to be a supper club and how you were kind of playing with that idea. Where are you at now with that, and where's Red Stag kind of heading in the future?
Well, Kim and I were talking about a couple different projects, and she needed some help with it. So Red Stag's really special to her. Her family owned a supper club, and her uncle, and so a lot of even the bar stools are from northern Wisconsin.
And all the memories in there, right?
I know, being a Vikings fan, I had to look at the pack with a picture of Paul Horning and hanging up at the bar every day. But very cool, really a tribute. So it meant a lot to her. So she just wanted to give it some blood, and new blood, I should say, and kind of reinvigorate it. And it was just whatever we kind of wanted to do. And so she's got a couple people in there now that are kind of, what we started, and they're continuing it. It's just kind of a modern take on it, and Kim is really, does put her money where the mouth is, and as far as the sustainability thing, so the local element.
Well, look at the Tiny Diner down there with all of the local sourcing, the beehive that's on the roof, and just everything that's going on. At the garden next to it, and she really does. She walks in the footsteps and not only talks about the footsteps.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to dive into a couple of things with all you guys, sort of a little bit bigger foodie narrative here. And the first one doesn't even relate to Minnesota. Every day I seem to read another article about California and the water issue. And I work with a lot of winemakers. In some areas, they're not worried at all. Other areas, Northern California, they gave up water rights, up in the Sacramento River Valley and things a long time ago. So they're worried about water there. Napa, maybe not so much. Sonoma, not so much. But the overall California food perspective as it relates to the Imperial Valley, San Joaquin Valley, and that drawing down of the groundwater and the water table, so dramatic. 20,000-year-old water that's just being depleted, and it's being depleted. We know what's going on. Bill, what do you think is going to? What are your? You've been following this. I'm guessing all you guys have been following this. Absolutely. To a certain extent. Yeah. What's your read on this, Bill? I mean, lettuce, and certainly, I read a statistic today, and I'm taking it to be, I think, a good one. 75% of the water that could supply all the needs of California population-wise, goes to growing almonds, just to growing almonds, because it's a water-intensive plant, among others. That may be overstated in that article I read, but I know it's not too far off. Anyhow.
Well, it's California. No, I think when these things happen, it's education. You find out a lot of places that lettuce or tomatoes or watermelon comes from that you had no idea. I remember, not too many years ago, there was a lettuce issue, and we were getting it from other places. Obviously, as on our side, we want as much production as possible to keep the price down.
Sure.
So it is a big deal, and but as we were talking on the way up, as soon as this gets under control, there's always going to be a way for prices. If the meat prices are crazy right now, when this gets under control, it'll be hoof and mouth, or they'll come up with another reason why the prices stay up there. So, but I think this is a little bit more serious than beyond that.
Yeah, Johnny.
Yeah, there's no question this is a very serious issue. And being in Minnesota, we actually snow here every once in a while, and we can't grow strawberries or tomatoes. And you can see the impact on a case of tomatoes can be $15 in the summer. It can be $40, $45 in the winter. And a lot of that stuff is coming from California. There's a lot of switch over to New Mexico as well. But the California market is very strategic for the rest of the United States.
Yeah. JP?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, 80% of the water that is used in California is done for agriculture.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, they're talking about telling people to not water their lawns, and that's great, but that's not the issue there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And 50 years, 60 years ago, most of our food would come within 250 miles.
Yeah,
or so.
not too long ago.
And John's right. You can't have strawberries and tomatoes in the wintertime. And, I do think it is an issue. And I think, you look at people locally here, getting tomatoes, the hydroponic movement and things like that. I mean, it's amazing actually if you're committed to it, that you can get stuff all year round, every month that is growing locally here.
I think it's really cool because it opens up this conversation about American consumption of food, and it's forcing people to talk about it, where their food comes from, and it's forcing people to look for other alternatives. When tomato prices are too high from California, maybe they're thinking of growing their own tomatoes. And it's all about sustainability. It's what we talked about in our last episode with Andrew Zimmern and Dan Buettner, was having a relationship with your food, and how American consumers of food are so denied that. They blatantly deny that, and that this is forcing them to have to really think about it.
Yeah, markets in many ways have put up those walls. The easy access through some markets, and then through the denial of others. I don't even know if it was 50 years ago. I remember I'm 56 this year, and even being a teenager. Well, I guess that was 40 years ago. Damn it! I just did the math. Damn it. But, I remember it was a treat to have Sunday night strawberry shortcake.
Yep.
And the strawberries were the frozen, ones, in a tin, and let those melt and thaw and just be refrigerator temp. And then that's what was poured, in December or January or February when we wanted strawberry shortcake. That's what we had. And just like a lot of canned goods, and families canned more, and certainly canned goods off the shelf, but just that ethic of finding that produce and canning it yourself and carrying it through. Back in the day, would a lot more of that canned stuff be used, at restaurants too? I mean, before this cycle of gas and diesel being the key element in getting foods to us, that sort of thing?
Well, way back in the day, my grandfather, they'd come into work in the morning and go down to the farmer's market, 6 months out of the year back then.
Okay.
In our restaurant, there was never a lot of canned stuff, maybe a few lunch items, because we were, serving steak and hamburgers.
Sure.
Even till 20 years ago at lunch, people were eating steaks.
Yeah.
So, and then now it's switched so much. But we never had a lot of canned stuff in our restaurant.
If it wasn't in season, it just wasn't on the menu. That was more the ethic. That was more the way of thinking about it. Yeah, yeah.
The trout are not in season in January.
Yeah. So yeah. But are you able to serve them, by bringing them in, or
we could? We
we
run the season only when they're fresh from our stream.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, you certainly could. Sunday liquor sales looks like it's not going to happen. It isn't going to happen.
Except growler sales.
Growler sales, And also, you'll be able to order a Bloody Mary before 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. It looks that
I'm
way.
glad I found that out because we've been doing it at 9 for a lot of years before Viking games. My dad even said to me the other day, "Really? I thought they changed that years ago." Statute of limitations is run out.
We're all good there, Bill.
Now we're
good
fine.
there. Yeah, yeah. JP, what's your take on that? The whole Sunday liquor thing.
Come on already.
Come on.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
Get it rocking, huh?
yeah,
What?
That's my. Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny?
Two things: Sunday liquor sales and tip credit. We're one of the few states that doesn't have a tip credit and doesn't have Sunday liquor sales. The government's kind of stepping in and making the decisions for the consumer instead of letting the consumer make that decision, and that's just not a good place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Bill?
Yeah, for a while, years ago, I was selfish saying, well, it might get those people out to come and have a bottle of wine at our place. But it's too accessible. I mean, I go back to my dad when we were younger, before me. Restaurants couldn't serve on Sundays either. And the big deal was if they had a good week, my grandfather would take them to Wisconsin so they could have frog legs, really, so my grandfather could drink. And, so they're going to go get it, right? So might as well keep it here. Let's get on with it.
Yeah. Keep the revenue here in Minnesota. All righty.
Those dang blue laws.
Before we go, we got just a few minutes left here. JP Samuelson, thanks for joining in on the show. D'Artagnan Meats is the name of the company. How can folks reach you? I mean, D'Artagnan, like the Three Musketeer.
Yes, the fourth Musketeer.
The
The
fourth,
fourth.
yep,
Yes.
the fourth Musketeer. Thank you.
Exactly.
Yep, thank
Yep.
you. D'Artagnanmeats.com, that sort of thing.
We do sell retail,
Yeah.
actually, and to the consumer. So on our website is d'Artagnan.com. Great,
Nice.
website explains what we do. But obviously, we're more in hotel, restaurant, institutional sales.
Yeah, so you're reaching out to the chefs and
Yep.
the owners out there at this point and making
Yep.
the rounds. And Minnesota's your territory now?
Yep,
Yeah.
all Minnesota.
Yeah, nice.
Spell D'Artagnan.
D'Artagnan.
Cool.
Put them on the spot.
I know.
And I know in the Frenchy way, there's a little apostrophe between
There
the D
is.
and the A, but not
D'Artagnan.
on the website. No
No.
apostrophe there.
No,
Just spell it straight
Spell
out.
it straight out. .com.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
D'Artagnan.com.
And Johnny, you're jamming at 7 in downtown Minneapolis and
I
working
am.
with David Cook down there and that whole crew.
Great folks.
Yeah, I'm happy to say at Go 96.3 we're doing quite a few events with you guys, and that's always
I
been
have seen you down there.
Yeah,
Not you
that-
personally, but the
that's
group.
been I'll be down there. Just doing that noon to 1 show now. It kind of is a
Yeah.
little truncated thing. I'm off. I'm here now doing Foodie Friday shows and other
better.
podcasts. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And Bill, just go to Kickstarter, put in Jack's Cafe, and let's get some people interested in that Kickstarter campaign.
JAX.
It would be
Cafe,
fun. We're really giving some great rewards back to those that are
I
participating.
saw that.
Yeah, well, give us a couple quick
Salmon
examples
loaf.
here.
Well, just other than the very entry level, everyone would get invited to the celebration party, which would cover the cost of what they're putting in. And then we have different, as the ladder climbs, you get different rewards and gift cards and chef dinners for up to 12 or up to 20 or
Sure,
all the way
nice.
up to a party for 200.
Yeah, like those Kickstarter, levels of contribution do across the board.
Yeah, it's been a fun project.
Yeah, good on you. Well, and like you said, it's going to move forward one way or another. So, but I think that's great. Yeah, to involve the patrons in there and give them a chance to be more involved in the process is always a kick.
It's always been a
Pun
part of the
intended.
community.
Yeah.
It's always been there.
Yeah, Jax has got a lot of memories for a lot of folks, like we talked about before. Real quick, again, before we go, JP, any trends, in the broader foodie and beverage world that you see coming around the pike here? What do you see?
What's the next pork belly?
Yeah,
Pork belly.
that's a good question.
Lamb neck.
Lamb neck.
Yeah.
What does lamb neck taste like?
Oh, it's delicious.
Yeah.
Like lamb.
Yeah,
Interesting. Interesting.
kind of like chicken.
Yep.
Slow brazier, is that what
You
that
can,
is?
but
Yeah.
it's also if you do it on the bone, but you can actually fillet it, cut it off, and use it almost like tenderloin.
Is that
but
right? Wow.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh, that sounds
So,
good.
Yeah, and chefs are always looking for the new cut.
Yeah.
The other one in pork, I think, would be the pork flat iron.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a big cut that we're seeing.
Yeah.
So
Seeing more interest there. Johnny?
I agree. It's going to be a lot of using pieces of meats that are different. That used to be called throwaway cuts. I think that's going to be the next trend.
And how about you, Bill?
I think the next trend is in the service side. You're seeing full service going away, and if you look at the Chipotle's, the Pizza Revs, all these new concepts are dealing with the labor issues, and you're seeing order and having one or two people be runners.
Bring it on out. Yeah.
And it's kind of sad in a way because part of a real dining experience is going to go away, but it's the facts. You're seeing it happening, and more. I mean, look at the airports; everything's iPads now, and
Sure.
it's the way it's going.
But that might make places like Jack's Cafe then and other restaurants where that isn't happening, where that front of house is still, taken into account 7 and whatever else. It's going to make them maybe that much
The
more
ones
special,
who
too.
stick around will definitely have an advantage. Just like years ago in the Heart Healthy, and everyone said steakhouses are going away, it's not healthy, and a bunch went away, and the ones that stuck around thrived.
Kind of turned around there, didn't it?
It's all hospitality. It's making people happy, and iPads will not make people happy.
Not necessarily happy at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
Not those apps.
Yeah.
Nope. Not those.
Couldn't help it. JP, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you here. Johnny, thank you.
Always a pleasure.
And Bill, a pleasure here having you at the Alive
A
and
lot of
Social
fun.
Studios. JP Samuelson, John Mihailov, and Bill Kozlak, along with...
Lydia Turner.
And yours truly, BT Brian Turner. Another edition of Foodie Friday. Thanks for listening.